Custom Corner Episode 3 Naked Snake. Undoubtedly, Snake has to be one of my favorite lead characters of one of my favorite series, Metal Gear Solid. So, we're going to be walking through essentially what a recipe for Snake would be. Bootleg Figma Snake from Guns of Liberty. This is essentially for the heads, and then the options of having the hands, the weapons, as well as the cigarettes. To make a 112 Snake from any Metal Gear game, I think one of the best bodies to use are those of the G.I. Joe Classified. They have a lot of articulation, and the body for Snake works surprisingly for Snake. Here, what I had to pick up were classic G.I. Joe 12-inch scale uniforms. So that meant I had to do a lot of stitchings and readjustments. The belts and harness come from actually a bungee harness set that classic G.I. Joes had a lot of. Then the knives you'll see are of the classified versions, just got multiple and applied them accordingly as needed. Making the eye patch was also a interesting endeavor because of how the Figma head sits in with the hair. You have to cut it a very specific way so that it actually fits the right way. Now, another specific piece that you really do need will actually be pleathers to use for the cuffs at the end of his hands, as well as varying hands, but that's if you want the actual fingerless glove look. Aside from that, the only thing that you need also is a Captain America Marvel Legend from the first movie. Because of his parachute harness, you'll actually get the proper holster that has the USA or the US engraved on the leather, and the same pistol that Snake will be using during this time. Making all the items for the belt is one of the harder parts too. You can sculpt these or actually try to look for parts that are small enough to fit with it but scale, being the water bottle, the butt pouch, and the walkie-talkie. In my case, for this first version, I made them all out of fabrics to stitch them, with the end goal trying to be that of the Medicom's superhero style. So a note to keep in mind is actually in the groin piece that the Classified has, it'll have a floating pant groin piece. Take this piece out when you put the fabric on. This will allow you to have extra articulation with kicks and movement of the legs. So this leads me to now 2.0 and 1.5 versions of my Snake. One is specifically Naked Snake, which you see does not have the eye patch. This one actually used a real uniform, real army uniform, and it allowed more flexibility since it is supposed to move more so than the G.I. Joes. The best way to place it on is actually adhering a lot of the sitting joints, being like the lapel space in the top of the shoulders, and then also at the hip joints. These will use much more sewing skills, so if you're not great at sewing, you may have to look for actually 1/12 scale uniforms that are already made. This version was made for a customer who did not purchase it, but then ended up buying, someone else ended up purchasing it. So he did actually come with a little bit of variation, having a shawl over him, as well as an option to put the cigarette in the mouth. The 1.5 version, which is the one using the tiger stripe, I now went with using the G.I. Joe Classified shoes option for the 2.0, which made Snake a little bit taller, throwing him off from the 112 a little bit, but I was able to meet in the middle by giving him slightly longer legs, being the Destro legs in the 2.0. So while 2.0 is a little taller, he is refitted and restyled so the tiger stripe uniform also fits him. That one had to be actually a G.I. Joe classic as well. So here's some final views of the running, standing still, then action shots from all phases of the Snake custom of 112. Overall, this took quite a while to do to really perfect which side was the best looking Snake in my opinion. Now, you can always do a pricier version of using a Mezco body and using the parts of the head, gun, and all the belt utilities of the Medicom stand action statues. Those ones are pretty expensive. That will usually run that your custom Snake will be around 200 bucks pretty, consistently. These ones, as I make them, I usually try to sell them from about starting at 75 and to 112 at the higher end. Now, they are not necessarily cheap to make, especially when you've done it so many times. But on average, if you can find a bootleg at a very cheap price, being around 12 bucks, then the body at a custom price may be another 12 bucks. Then the uniform that you need to get maybe an 8, and then some elbow grease, paint work, comes out being a lot cheaper, around 50 or 60 bucks consistently when you're actually making it. I hope whoever tries to make this recipe, you go ahead and tag me, or if it just helps you get an idea of, making your own customs or ensuring that you don't get discouraged when you make your own stuff. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see ya!